Test, test. Oh, okay, hey guys. Today I wanted to bring you a video about a new rule system that I've made for Dungeons and Dragons or any other tabletop RPG. Basically, this system can work with a lot of things. So for now, I've just been calling it Dynamic Quest. So basically, what you're going to want to do is world affecting generator. Basically, it is a uh, world randomizer or a world quest randomizer. So you're gonna want to get yourself a map. I made this map yesterday, and then you're gonna want to get a hex map. I found this one on Google Images, and basically you will want to have some sort of editing program like GIMP or Photoshop. So let's start it up. Alright, and so what you're going to want to do is first of all close these. And open them via GIMP. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay. I'm gonna copy this, go over to this one, make a new layer, transparent, paste that over there, make it multiply. Oh. Well. How bizarre. Okay, I guess make that one a new layer and delete the other one. And then make this one multiply. There you go. Now you've got yourself a hex map and you can determine just how faded it is. Anyway, I already have my own hex map, so I hate how there's no minimize button on GIMP. It's weird. So I'm gonna go ahead and open mine. And the first thing you'll notice is mine is like all colorful and you know, got all these icons and stuff. So I'm going to explain what everything is. Alright, so first of all, let's take a look over here at these. These are events. You'll see a few of them dotted around. So number one, I have them written down here. Number one, the shield. An area or NPC must be protected from harm. Number two, an issue that must be resolved by force, which is going to be the swords here. Number three, a specific foe that must be vanquished. So that's going to be the skull. Or number three, sorry. Number four is a service or assistance that needs to be provided. That's kind of like special quests. Number five, a task involving gathering or collecting. That's going to be that one. Number six, an area that must be held or claimed. It's going to be the one with the flag. Number seven, an object that must be destroyed. That's going to be the gear. And number eight, a chaotic brawl. And so you're probably still confused as hell. So let me go ahead and read what I've written down here, because it's basically the best way to describe it. Alright, so war. A hex map of the world. Each nation starts off with control of its own plots of land, with at least 2 dice on each, depending on its military power. So, for instance, you'll notice the Shimmering Plains has a lot of red hexes. That means that it's got a really powerful military force, whereas the Twisting Sands only has 3, and so it doesn't have a very powerful military force. And I'm referring to the colored hexes, by the way. These battle axes basically just represent bad guys, villains, monsters, whatever. So it could be anything from a war band of goblins to orcs to drow to lizard men, I mean, whatever you want it to be, basically. Bandits, it could be anything. Um, let's see. Each round, the nation gets a number of dice equal to its collected land that it can distribute as it pleases within its armies. So basically, what that means is every time a round is over, each one of the plots of land that you own gets another dice added to it. So they start off with 2, and the next round they'd be 3. If they didn't spend it, the next round after that they'd be 4, etc., etc. Let's see. If attacking another nation, you roll equal or less than the opponent. Your dice for that specific land is dropped to 1. So, for instance, say, let's see, let's go right here. This little guy, this little villain square hex, let's say it has 2, and this one has 2. Now the villains always attack first. So the villain is going to attack. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 2 d6s. You're going to roll them. I just rolled a 10. Okay, and then you're going to roll for the square that you're attacking. I just rolled a 5. Okay, so in this case, they actually beat them, and now you would erase this little colored one here and place another crossed battle axis here, representing that they have now claimed the land. So it went from 2 to 1 1. So you're gonna have 1 here and 1 here, and you cannot attack with 1. You can only attack with 2 dice. I mean, you can only attack whenever your land has 2 dice on it. So, but if for instance it was the other way around and the villains rolled a 5 and the good guys rolled a 10, and it was the villain's turn to attack, he would be knocked down to 1. So even if he had like 6 dice, if he still lost, again, if he lost the roll and it was his attack, he wouldn't get killed, he wouldn't get defeated. Instead, he would just get knocked down to 1 regardless of how many dice he had stacked. And you can stack up to 8 dice. Okay? Total, I mean, on each hex. Each hex can have up to 8 dice. Alright. A nation can sacrifice 6 dice, and I'm talking about 6 stacked, not 6 individual, but 6 stacked on 1, to call in either a guild or a monster, depending on your side. So let's look over here. You see this little skull here? That represents a monster, and this one represents a guild. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a guild. It doesn't necessarily have to be a monster. It's just that's what it's called in the rules. So you'll notice here. Now let's look at this one. There's a monster here. But then you notice this little gear here too, and you're like, well, what is that? So monsters cannot attack anything but themselves, or I have a custom rule that I've just added called the darkness. They can attack the darkness, but for the actual rule set, they can only attack other guilds or monsters. So or they can only attack guilds. So if you're a guild, you can attack a monster, and if you have a monster, the monster can attack a guild. They can move. It takes, they can move 1 square per round, or 1 hex per round, but they don't gain lands, and they cannot be attacked by lands. They can't attack lands. What they do when they come into combat, or when they come into the field, is they roll a 1d8, and it goes back to this side over here, the thing I explained at the beginning of the video, and that's what causes the random event. So for instance, this one here is a gear. Gear means gear was number 7, which means that it's an artifact that needs to be destroyed. So it could be like a magical item, it could be like a cannon, it could be any number of things that you want it to be. Now, it starts play with 6 dice automatically, just like the monster starts play with 6 dice for battle between different guilds and monsters. But like I said, he can't attack lands, whereas the event can attack lands, but you don't gain control of the land that it kills. So for instance, say this little square here, the one on the end, let's say it has 2, and this one just came into play, so it automatically has 6. Now it can attack the 2, and so let's see. 6, 7, 8 for the land, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So obviously the event wins. Now, instead of erasing it and putting a crossed battle axes over it, you're just going to erase it. which means the event has succeeded in destroying it. Now, events cannot move, whereas armies can only move by obtaining land, and guilds can move 1 square or 1 hex per round. The events cannot move whatsoever. Oh yeah, and guilds and NPCs can attack. They can attack events as well. I forgot to mention that. So, moving on to the next part. Let's see. A guild or monster supported square cannot be defeated without another guild or monster square. Guild or monster squares do not attack and cannot bolster their armies, but instead roll 1d8 to determine an above event. I just explained that. And what I mean by bolster armies is every round you add 1 dice. Every round you add 1 dice, but you can't add dice to the monster or guild, and they also do not contribute towards your total land. Now, your events do count towards your land. So they start off with 6, then the next round they would have 7, then the next round after that they would have 8, and they'd be maxed out, but they always count as 1 land. So they'll continue giving you revenue for that piece of land that they're on until they're destroyed. Let's see, what else? 1d8 to determine above. This event can be placed within 1 area of the guild icon and automatically starts with 6 dice. Events can be destroyed by regular squares, but guilds cannot. Guilds can also move as if capturing more land. That's a little inaccurate statement. They move just 1 square that they're touching per round. If an event is destroyed, the nation can sacrifice 6 or more dice to start another event. No nation can have more than 2 guilds or monsters at once. So, say this one over here. It's got a monster. It's got to capture the flag symbol, or King of the Hill symbol. Sorry. So, say the Twisting Sands actually succeeds and destroys it. It's going to take another. It's going to take another sacrifice of 6 to bring in another event. So you'll keep your monster there, and your monster can't be destroyed except by a guild, but he can move around and stuff. In order to get another event, you're going to need to sacrifice a stack of 6. Now, you're probably asking, well, this system is kind of flawed because what happens whenever you completely wipe out one or the other? Well, there's a rule system for that. What you do is you go into a sort of even larger scale. Instead of zooming into the land, you go into a larger scale, and you give two dice on one side, and then you give 2 dice on another side, and the dice on one side represents the good guys. The one on the other side determines the bad guys. Now, you're going to do the exact same thing, except pretend it's just 1 land or 1 hex against 1 hex. And so, I'm going to roll. See, the bad guys rolled 5. They rolled a 4, and the good guys rolled a 7. Oops. Do you want to? I don't know where that came from. Anyway, make sure YouTube. Okay, YouTube's still recording. So that would mean that the monsters don't come back that round. Now, you're going to keep doing this every single round as if you were doing combat with the other ones. And whenever if the monsters win, determining by how many points they win by, that's going to be how many monster icons, or bad guy icons, you put down on the map. So, for instance, let's reverse the rolls and say that the good guys rolled 4 and the bad guys rolled 7. So the bad guys won by 3. So you're going to place 3 confrontation or bad guy, what do I call it? Contested. I'm calling them contested on my map. So you're going to place 3 contested marks on your map, which is the crossed battle axes, and you're going to place them in places that are not claimed. Okay. Also, another rule, you can't go outside the lines. So, for instance, the line here separates the Twisting Sands. You can't go into an opposing nation to have monsters battle that way. So if you look, the Shimmering Plains is a good example because you've got monsters all the way down here, but they don't go into either Duskvine or Thunder Bay. They stay within Shimmering Plains because that is their area of combat. Let's see. What is another rule? Another rule is if your party, or if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, I mean, you could play this just as a board game, but if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and your party comes in and say, you know, you come in here and there's this King of the Hill event, then that's going to be a quest, and they say they succeed in beating the quest, that's going to erase the King of the Hill symbol there, and it won't have any effect on the opposing nation, so it won't cost the good guys anything to destroy the bad guys event because the players came in and did that. Likewise, the players can destroy the, I don't know what this is doing. Your players can come in and destroy the monster or guild, depending on if you're good or bad. They can also destroy the contested territory by just going in there and killing all the, you know, like killing 50 gnolls or 50 kobolds or whatever. You can take over that little square. And you can add your own custom rules. Like, for instance, I added the darkness, which is for my campaign. It's going to start over here, and lands cannot attack the darkness. Only guilds and events and players and monsters can attack the darkness, but the darkness acts exactly as a land, and they can summon their own monster, but whenever they do, it automatically is a foe that must be defeated, and it's going to be a really powerful one because it's like a demon and stuff. So that's just for my personal game, so you can add your own custom stuff to it too. It will require some creativity on your part to make the map and all that. So I mean, you see mine looks like it's like an actual board game or something. I actually stole most of these icons from Guild Wars 2 wiki because Guild Wars was actually a big inspiration for this system. And you'll notice I have a lot of layers. It's because each layer is specifically tied to a specific item here. So for instance, for contested, if I wanted to make a new one, I would control C it, then I'll click on icons, which is my entire map, and I would paste it, go over here to move, and let's just say claim this land right here. Okay, so let's control Z that, and if I wanted to edit some lands, come over here. Alright, paint bucket. So let's get rid of this one, and this one. And then let's say I wanted to add one here. See how easy that is? It's really simple. But it will require a little bit of creativity on your part unless you make an actual unless you make the entire map by hand. Now, I do have a printout of the hex paper, and I can't show it to you because I don't have a webcam, but I drew the map on there and I made it an exact replica of where the squares are. And that's how I did the combat to make it easier, because you'll see I did have some numbers over here but for the dice, but it took way too long, so I just decided to draw it. And to determine the difference between nations and monsters and events and all that, I put little certain icons like triangles, X's, circles, stuff like that in the corner, like you know, like 3 squared, it would be like 3 triangle. So that allowed me to determine the difference. So that is my system. Sorry it took so long to make this video. There's a lot to go over. So yeah, if you think it's flawed, let me know why. If you have any ideas that could help me out with progressing to build it and stuff like that, let me know. If you like the system, let me know. Basically just hearing from you lets me know that I should continue making these videos. Alright, well, again, thank you guys for watching.